Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So let's go over all of the books that I read in November. November is not over yet, but I doubt I will be finishing any more books. The newest WoW expansion just came out, so I'm not super focused on reading. So the first book that I finished in the month of November was The Gilded Wolves by Rajni Chachki, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This is essentially a heist novel following 6 characters who want to take back this artifact to restore their friend's leading house of this society, and I really liked it. This is often compared to Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, and I don't really necessarily agree with that comparison. Aside from the heist, like a group of people pulling off a heist, there isn't really a whole lot in common. Thematically, plot-wise, just the things that the authors focus on aren't the same. Gilded Wolves was very fast-paced while the characters were still endearing, and it was just a fun time, just easy to read and to get through, whereas Six of Crows I feel like was way more character-driven than anything else. I also read the first and second book in the Lemony Snicket series of unfortunate events, The Bad Beginning and Reptile Room. The Bad Beginning I gave 4 out of 5 stars, and The Reptile Room I gave 3 out of 5 stars. For some reason you're not familiar with the story, it's the story of the 3 Baudelaire children after their parents are killed, and they are bouncing around from family member to family member, and the first family member that they live with is Count Olaf, who is the villain throughout the whole series, and he has all of these plots to basically take their fortune, and I loved the TV show, and I remember reading these books when I was a kid. I got them from the Scholastic Bowl, so they were just like a very comforting, fun read, and I also was watching the TV show at the same time, so I was just living the best life, I guess. I read In the Dream House by Cameron Maria Machado, which I listened to the audiobook of. I did not give this a rating. It is a memoir story about the author's experience in an abusive relationship, and it was beautifully done. I obviously didn't rate it because I don't know how you rate something like that. It was just very emotional and gorgeous, and I would really recommend. Obviously it deals with some really heavy topics, so make sure you are in the right headspace before you go into it, but it's gorgeous. Next, I read The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This is the story of Linus, who is a caseworker in a world where magical people coexist with humans, but magical people are kind of degraded and made to feel inferior, and magical orphans are put into orphanages that oversee them. And Linus is basically a caseworker in charge of going to these orphanages and making sure that they're being run how they're supposed to be run, and that the children are getting everything they need. And in the beginning of the story, he gets sent to a unknown, like a hidden, mysterious orphanage on the sea run by a guy named Arthur, and there are several children there that are a little more special than others, including Lucifer as a child. It was okay. I think that it's definitely very whimsical, very fun. I've seen it often compared to a middle grade for adults, and I would agree. I'm not like a huge kid person, so the main focus of course was Linus's love and him growing attached to the kids and to, you know, being there and noticing that his life prior to was not a life. He wasn't really living, and then he was brought here, and just all of that, like his growth and recognizing that the things that he believed were right necessarily weren't right. I didn't dislike it. I just felt it was very average, but I'm in the minority of that for sure. It's making its rounds on BookTube and people are just like loving it. So I'm definitely in the minority of that. It was good. So the next couple books that I read, I actually did a dedicated reading vlog for, so I won't go too in-depth into my feelings on them. I will link that above if you are interested in hearing about them. It's my Can We Trust Illustrated Covers video. So the first book that I read for that video was Beach Read by Emily Henry, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This is basically about 2 writers that enter into a bargain because they're both into writing slumps, and they decide that they're going to write each other's genre, and a romance sparks, but it is a lot deeper than that. There are a lot of different subplots going on, including grief. It was okay. It had too many plot lines, and the plot lines couldn't happen concurrently. Like, one thing was happening, or the other thing was happening, or the other thing was happening. That's all I'm gonna say. I'll go more into that video, so go watch that if you want to hear more in-depth opinions, but it was fine. Definitely one of the best I read for the video. I then read Party of Two by Jasmine Guillory, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars. This is the romance between a lawyer and a senator, and it was really boring. I did not like really any of it. I liked up until about the 20% mark, and then the whole politician thing just really didn't work for me, and the drama that it caused, and it was boring. I then read The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa, which I also gave 3 out of 5 stars. This is about a woman who is a wedding planner who gets left on her wedding day, and the groom's brother appears to be the one that kind of caused the rift, and she ends up having to work with him to get a new job. I have found kind of my niche in the romance genre, and this kind of like fluffy is just it's not for me. But again, this is a very popular book, so if you are more into like the fluffier side, I'm sure you would like it. I read Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's about a girl in the 1800s who wants to be a mortician, and she is studying under her uncle when Jack the Ripper starts murdering women, and she tries to investigate. I don't know if this was supposed to be a murder mystery, but I knew almost from the very beginning who it was, and the characters were very boring. It was plotted very poorly, and really the only redeeming quality was the atmosphere. Like, it felt like what I imagine London in the 1800s would feel like. So then I read House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. So at the core, this is a murder mystery with some paranormal elements tied in, following a half-fae, half-human, Bryce, and an angel named Hunt, who are trying to investigate into a murder, and some other mysterious things are going on. So I didn't hate this book, and I really delve into my thoughts on this in a reading vlog, which I will link above. So I'm not gonna go into that. That was like a 30-minute reading vlog, and like 20 minutes of it was me talking about this book. It was alright. It had a lot of the kind of like stereotypically Sarah J. Maas elements, like overpowered characters, and the carbon copy characters of her other series. Weird writing. A lot of the writing techniques that she uses in her other stories come through in here. There was also some good in there. I obviously got through it. It's 800 pages, which it really doesn't need to be, but it was decent enough for me to get through it. The murder mystery part was interesting, so it was okay. So next I read Go Deep by Rosie Adams, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars. This is a novella about a romance writer who is kind of lost her mojo a little bit, so she recruits her best friend to help her, and they spark something while they're sparking something. And I loved it. I read Will You Be Mine earlier this year, and I gave that 5 out of 5 stars. Rosie Adams is a fantastic writer. She's just brilliant, and I will read anything that she comes out with. This was so good, so just perfection. I read Are You Listening by Tillie Walden, which I didn't rate. It's a graphic novel. It's a single graphic novel. It's not part of a series. About 2 women who go on a road trip together, and there's like some magical elements in it. There's discussions of sexual assault and like identity and things like that. So it was weird. It was weird, and I didn't really know what was going on, but it wasn't bad. The illustrations were beautiful. So again, the next couple of books that I read for a reading vlog, my most recent reading vlog, which I'm super proud of. So it's nice and cozy. I farm sat. So that sounds like something that you would want to watch, go ahead and watch it. I'll link it up above. But I read them for the Gilmore Girls-a-thon, so I'm not, again, gonna go too into depth with these, but if you are interested in hearing my full thoughts, I will have that down in the description. So, the first book I read for that was A Man Called Ova by Fredrik Backman. This is my second Fredrik Backman book. I read Beartown in October or early November, and I DNF'd because of some really heavy topics that are included in that book that I just wasn't aware of. This is about Ova, who is, it's 6 months after his wife has passed away, and he is very depressed, very grumpy, just kind of done with life. He feels useless. He feels like the world is shutting him out, and he doesn't feel like he has a place. And then a family moves in next door and kind of changes his whole life. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. When I went into this book, I was under the impression that it would be a slow, gradual love and understanding of, like, he has found this place with this family, and it wasn't really that. So yes, you get him interacting with the family and all that, but up until the very end, I would say about 75%, he is attempting suicide, like every other chapter. You know, keep that in mind if you're going into this, but it just wasn't the story that I was expecting, or that I guess I really wanted. So it was tough, it was sad, it was emotional, just not what I wanted, I guess. I read Monstrous by Marcy Kate Connolly, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This is a Frankenstein retelling with a girl named Chimera, who is attempting to thwart a wizard who is stealing young girls and killing them for what they believe to be a black magic sort of situation. This book is like 400 and some change, and it was entirely too long. It was definitely very, like, not very slow paced, but slow paced in some places that I feel like could have been cut out. So that's kind of why I dropped it down, but altogether, I thought it was a cute story. I really liked Chimera as a character, and I liked the love that she had for the village, even though she knew that they wouldn't necessarily accept her. And there was a lot of cute elements in this. I just think it was entirely too long. I read Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars. I originally picked this up because it was very closely said to be like A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which I read in October and absolutely loved, and I didn't like this at all. Nothing happened, and I recognize that this is the first book in a series, but nothing happened. No investigation happened. Let me go back to the beginning. So this is essentially the story of Stevie, who gets accepted into this very prestigious academy for really intelligent kids, and she is obsessed with true crime. And in the 20s at this school, the founder's daughter and wife goes missing, and the crime was never fully solved. Someone was accused and put in prison, but they don't really, it's kind of widely accepted that that wasn't really the culprit, but because they didn't have the evidence or the technology that they needed to figure it out, they kind of just went with him as the killer. And Stevie wants to figure out what really happened, and it was really boring. And nothing happened, no investigation really happened, and the ending pissed me off. So I read Binti, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This is a short novella that is part of a 3-book series of novellas about Binti, who is the first in her family to get accepted into this academy of space galaxy stuff. And this is just her traveling from home to the school, and some stuff happens like in her travels. I really liked this a lot. I liked the inclusion of spirituality mixing with science. I thought it was really interesting, and I will definitely be continuing. And then the last book that I finished this month was My Lady Jane by Cynthia Han, Brody Ashton, and Jodie Meadows, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars. A multiple POV story of Jane Grey, Edward Tudor, I think, and Gifford something, who is a courtier, is that what they're called? Edward is dying, and he has to leave the kingdom to someone, but doesn't want to leave it to his sisters, so he leaves it to his cousin Jane, and then Jane ends up having to get married to son of a Privy Council member or something like that. And in this world, there are people who can change into magical, like into creatures. So she marries a guy that changes into a horse, and he's a horse from sunrise to sunset, basically. And then she becomes queen. I thought this was entirely too long. It was funny, and it was written in an interesting way. The narrative was interesting. It was just too long, and it really started to drag after like about 150. Like once she takes the crown, it just started to become so boring. It just was too long and not well plotted and paced, so that's that. Oh, I forgot to say that I also read Desperate Measures by Katie Robert, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This is the first in her Villains series, which is the central plot of the series is about a sex club that is owned by Hades, and this one is about Jafar and Jasmine. Jafar is like a crime boss, and Jasmine is the daughter of a crime boss. And it was interesting. I liked it. It was sexy. Katie Roberts great at writing, just period. So I really enjoyed it. 4 out of 5 stars. But 20 books is not too bad. So yeah, I can't complain. The quality of the books wasn't great, but you know, it is what it is. So that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys liked it. Comment down below your thoughts on any of the books that I read this month, or any of the books that you read. I would love to hear it, but that's gonna be it. So I will see you guys in my next video. Thanks so much.